Let's see, I think that we might be online. I saw a little something come up. It looks like we are. So I'm gonna just say hello. It's good to be with you tonight for Together in Faith. And as you can see from the title there on the screen, we're going to be talking about origin stories, which is our new Bible study series that we're doing between now and Lent. And the first day of that was this morning. So we're going to talk about that. But if you have a moment, hey, I see Harriet, Colin and Harriet. Good to see you tonight on screen. And feel free to, folks, to share your greetings on screen. Let's see. I just decided, felt like the right night to do a little guitar. And hey, Kim, good evening from Alice's daughter in Minnesota. Hey, I was just in Minnesota seeing family. So glad you're here with us tonight, Kim. I want to share, as we're getting going here, a few little drawings. If you were in church on Sunday, you might have seen that we have another coloring project. It's for our Baptism of Jesus window, because it was the readings in the church here where we read when Jesus was baptized by John this last week. And so we had a couple folks turn in some lovely art. This is from Bernie. Thank you, Bernie, for sharing that coloring project. And this is from Esley. Esley, thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know, we've had a number of these where we took our stained glass windows. This one is the one that's over by the grand piano, the stained glass window there that's closest to the grand piano, and where Ben plays guitar, and have been giving them as black and white that you can color. And so if you'd like to get your own copy that you can color, put on your own fridge, or share here, we can share with friends online. You can find them in the church office, and I'll post them online to you so you can download. This one isn't posted yet online, but again, thanks Esley and Bernie for sharing those. And let's see, who's else saying hi here? Hi, Irene. Good evening. The sound is faint, Irene is saying. Well, I'll speak up. How's that? We'll see if that'll help. I'm at home here, and so I don't have any extra microphones, so the best thing I can say is I'll speak up. Well, as you can see from the screen, here, let me just take that title off. I keep on forgetting that it's there. So, do you feel like I'm poking at you? So the new Bible study that we're leading, Lynn and I are taking turns at, is Origin Stories. And we're talking about, this came from a conversation from our last book study. Towards the end of the book study, we started talking about the different origin stories, and some folks were interested who were in part of the book study to look at Genesis. And so what we're going to do for the 7 weeks between now and Lent is we're going to each week just look at an origin story, and the first couple weeks here are going to be in Genesis. And so, of course, today we did a conversation around the creation stories in the beginning of Genesis. And next week we'll be looking at Abraham and those origin stories. And so every week there'll be those. So we'll be doing those conversations in the evening on Together in Faith. And if you want a longer in-person conversation, those will happen on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. in the barn. And so for those of you who possibly joined, hey, Randy was there this morning. For those of you who joined in the barn at 9 a.m., this will be, I've done it just a little bit different from our conversation. So there will be something new here for you, Randy, and for anyone else who is at the conversation tonight or this morning. And that's how it'll be for the next 7 weeks. We'll have a morning conversation that you're welcome to join us at the barn over at Eastside, and you're welcome to join us online if you cannot, or if you're somewhere else like Minnesota. So, having said that, we're going to jump in because we had a lively discussion for an hour today, and I've only got 30 minutes tonight. And so I want to do, we're going to talk about the two creation stories. We have two, right? And we talked a little bit this morning about those creation stories, but then we also talked about one of our guides for these stories out of Genesis is going to come from the very fine theologian Walter Brueggemann and his commentary on Genesis. And so we talked a bit about some of those things that he pulls out in Genesis, and he really pulls out two things that I think are just really interesting for us. The one is that the substance of the call is God's promises. I should step back for a moment. God calls the world into being. God calls us also into the church. So Genesis is structured around these same calls, calling the world into being and calling us to be a people together. And so the substance of the call is God's promises. So really the book of Genesis and really the Bible is about God's promises. And the mode for that call in Genesis, and really much of the Bible, is storytelling. And so with that in mind, I thought it would be interesting. This morning when we did it, we went through and read the Genesis creation stories from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, the NRSV. But tonight I want to read them from the Message, which is a paraphrase. And kind of more like maybe that oral tradition that our Bible came out of, that our scriptures came out of. I want to do it with a little guitar. And so I haven't read through the Message before. I'm just not this. I just printed it up. I have it spread out here on the couch next to me. And I just want you to sit back and listen to these creation stories. And then as something comes up, I'd love to see them in the chat about what strikes you as interesting or familiar or disturbing. I don't know. So we're going to read and hear the creation stories out of Genesis. Hi, Irene. Good to see you. Hi, Deborah. Good to see you. And here we go. These are the creation stories starting with Genesis 1:1 to the end of the second chapter. Let's see. First, this: God created the heavens and earth. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness. A bottomless emptiness and inky blackness. God's Spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. God spoke, light, and light appeared. God saw that light was good and separated light from dark. God named the light day. He named the dark night. It was evening. It was morning. Day one. God spoke, sky, in the middle of the waters. Separate water from water. God made sky. He separated the water under the sky from the water above the sky. And there it was. He named sky the heavens. It was morning. It was evening. Day two. God spoke, separate water beneath heaven, gather into one place, land appear. Land appear. up here, and there it was. God named the land earth. He named the pooled water ocean. God saw that it was good. God spoke, earth, green up. Green up, grow all variety of seed-bearing plants, every sort of fruit-bearing tree, and there it was. Earth produced green seed-bearing plants, all varieties, and fruit-bearing trees of all sorts. God saw that it was good. It was evening. It was morning. Day 3. God spoke, light, come out. Shine in heaven's sky, separate day from night, mark seasons and days and years. Lights in heaven's sky and give light to earth, and there it was. God made 2 big lights, the larger to take the charge of day, the smaller to be in charge of night. And he made the stars. Let's see, what would stars sound like? He made the stars. God placed them in the heavenly sky to light up earth and oversee day and night, to separate light and dark. God saw that it was good. It was evening. It was morning. Day 4. God spoke, swarm, ocean, with fish and with all sea life. God created the huge whales, all the swarm of life in the waters, and every kind of species of flying birds. God saw that it was good. God blessed them. God blessed them, saying, prosper, reproduce, fill ocean, birds, reproduce on earth. It was evening, it was morning. Day 5. God spoke, earth, generate life, every sort and kind, cattle and reptiles and wild birds, all kinds. And there it was, wild animals of every kind, cattle of all kinds, every sort of reptile and bug. God saw that it was good. God spoke, let us make human beings in our image, make them reflect our nature, so that they can be responsible for the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth. God created human beings. He created them godlike. Reflecting God's nature, he created them male and female. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge, be responsible for fish in the sea and birds in the air and every living thing that moves on the face of the earth. Then God said, I have given you every sort of seed-bearing plant on earth and every kind of fruit-bearing plant given to them for food. To all animals and all birds, everything that moves and breathes, I give whatever grows out of the ground for food. And there it was. God looked over everything he had made. It was so good, so very good. It was evening. It was morning. It was the 6th day. And earth and heaven were finished, down to the last detail. By the 7th day, God had finished his work. On the 7th day, he rested from all his work. He blessed the 7th day. He made it a holy day, because on that day he rested from his work, all the creating God had done. This is the story of how it all started, of heaven and earth, when they were created. So I don't know if that was interesting or not. Hey, good evening, Gail. But that was the first story, with a little bit of guitar interlude. And so we have that one creation story, but now you might be familiar, we have a second. And so let's hear the second creation story coming out of Genesis, starting with that last verse that we just read and moving on into the next creation story. It goes like this. This is the story of how it all started, of heaven and earth when they were created. At the time God made heaven and earth, before any grasses or shrubs had sprouted on the ground, God hadn't yet sent rain on earth, nor was there anyone around to work the ground. The whole earth was watered by underground springs. God formed man out of the dirt of the ground and blew into his nostrils the breath of life. The man came alive, a living soul. Then God planted the garden in Eden in the east. He put the man he had just made in it. God made all kinds of trees to grow from the ground, trees beautiful to look at and good to eat. The tree of life was in the middle of the garden, also the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there divides into 4 rivers. The first is named Pishon. It flows through Halava, where there is gold. The gold of this land is good. The land is also known for a sweet-scented resin and the onyx stone. The second river is named Gidon and flows through the land of Cush. The third river is named Hiddekel and flows east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates. God took the man and set him down in the Garden of Eden to work the ground and to keep it in order. God commanded the man, "You can eat from any tree in the garden, except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat from it. The moment you eat from it, that tree, well, you're dead." God said, "It's not good for the man to be alone. I'll make him a helper, a companion." Make him a companion. So God formed the dirt of the ground, all the animals of the field, and all the birds of the air. He brought them to the man to see what the man would name them. Whatever the man called the living creature, that was its name. The man named the cattle, named the birds of the air, named the wild animals, but he didn't find a suitable companion. Then God put the man into a deep sleep. As he slept, he recovered. He removed one of his ribs and replaced it with flesh. God then used the rib that he had taken from the man to make woman and presented her to the man. The man said, "Finally, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Name her woman, for she was made from man." Therefore a man leaves his father and mother and embraces his wife. They become one flesh. 2 of them, the man and his wife, were naked, and they felt no shame. Alice was there tonight too. So those are our 2 creation stories that we read and chatted about this morning in our longer Bible study. And I'm kind of curious if anyone wants to post online, what was new or unique or interesting or familiar or disturbing about any of our readings. The fact that we have 2 creation stories is something that is lovely and unique. Any thoughts on what might be happening there? We talked a bit about it this morning. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that we think possibly these 2 creation stories were written for very different times in the life of the Jewish people of Israel, and that one of those creation stories was written down possibly while those people were in exile in Babylon. And so they were in a very different place, trying to figure out what had just gone wrong. And so one of those stories speaks to that a little bit more than the other. Anything strike out to you as interesting? And why do you think we have 2 creation stories? Do you think we need them both? I don't want to show my hand here. In fact, I'm just really trying to entice you to come and join us next Tuesday morning, if you can, for our conversation about Abraham. And then the other question is, where else in our scriptures do we have creation stories? Because Genesis isn't the only place. And so we've talked about some of those creation stories, where they're found in Scripture and what they might mean for us today. So those were some of our conversations. I like to think that all these stories, since they started off in an oral tradition, that people were sitting around their campfires, maybe not all that different from the sitting around next to the screen that you're on right now. And maybe there was somebody with an instrument like I have tonight. And they were just talking. And they're like, no, I've got a story for you. It's about the beginning of the beginning. Well, like I said, it's good to be with you here tonight, and that was the beginning of the beginning for our 7-week series on creation, on origin stories, this first one being on creation. Next week, we're going to be looking at Abraham, and we're going to be looking specifically at chapters 11 through 25 of Genesis. And so for those of you who would like to do some pre-reading, either to come and join the conversation on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. or to pre-read for next Tuesday night when we're together here on Together in Faith, you can pre-read a little bit of Genesis 11 through 25. These are the chapters that Abraham is highlighted in our scriptures. And so we'll be talking about that next week. And thanks for listening in tonight, and for letting me play a little guitar for you, because I find this calming, and I hope you do too. Well, see, our time is almost up. Well, friends, I hope that you have enjoyed your night, and I hope that you'll come and join us next week again. But before we say goodnight, I'm going to go ahead and put up on our screen the Luther's evening prayer, which we'll pray together. And thanks all of you for saying hi online. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in worship this week or online as you're able to join us. Here's Luther's evening prayer. I give thanks to you, my heavenly Father, through Jesus Christ, your dear Son, that you have graciously protected me today, and I ask you to forgive me all my sins where I have done wrong, and graciously to protect me tonight. For into your hands I commend myself, my body, my soul, and all that is mine. Let your holy angel be with me, so that the wicked foe may have no power over me. Amen. Well, friends, I may just sit and play for a little bit, and thanks for joining me. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.